In order to better understand the topics discussed in this video, clarifying definitions might be helpful. Some important definitions to take note of are sustainability, organic standards, crops, livestock, and multi-ingredient products, and lastly, responsible sourcing. Sustainability, a noun, is 1. The ability to be sustained, supported, upheld, or confirmed, and 2. In the environmental science context, the quality of not being harmful to the environment or depleting natural resources, and thereby supporting long-term ecological balance. According to the USDA, organic is defined as the following. The organic standards describe the specific requirements that must be verified by a USDA-accredited certifying agent before products can be labeled USDA organic. Overall, organic operations must demonstrate that they are protecting natural resources, conserving biodiversity, and using only approved substances. When a crop is labeled with the USDA organic seal, it verifies that irradiation, sewage sludge, synthetic fertilizers, prohibited pesticides, and genetically modified organisms were not used in the farming process. When labeling livestock with the USDA organic seal, it verifies that producers met animal health and welfare standards, did not use antibiotics or growth hormones, used 100% organic feed, and provided animals with access to the outdoors. When labeling a product with multiple organic ingredients, the USDA organic seal verifies that the product has 95% or more certified organic content. If the label claims that it was made with specified organic ingredients, you can be sure that those specific ingredients are certified organic. Responsible sourcing, also referred to as supply chain responsibility, is a voluntary commitment by companies to take into account social and environmental considerations when managing their relationships with suppliers. This strategy is now an integral part of effective supply chain management. When looking at different types of food and beverage organizations, I used Clean Agency's framework for assessing sustainability and responsible sourcing efforts. The framework is broken into 6 categories: ingredient sourcing and farming, energy and GHG emissions, water management, waste management, packaging, and lastly, community and philanthropy. Each category posed a series of questions. The ingredient sourcing and farming section asks, do they use organic ingredients? Do they source from local suppliers? Do they use non-GMO ingredients? Do they use ingredients certified by any other third-party organization? Do they use other practices to protect soil, such as crop rotation? Are they members of any sourcing and farming related sustainability groups? And have they won any awards for farming or ingredient sourcing? The energy and GHG emissions category asks, do they have efficient farm machinery? Do they have efficiency measures in the factory? Do they use or generate renewable energy? Do they use rail transport or have efficient trucks? Do they do anything else in the supply chain to reduce energy? Do they have energy-saving fixtures in their offices or headquarters? Are they members of any energy-related sustainability groups, and have they won any awards for energy reduction? The water management category asks, do they use water-saving irrigation methods on farms? Do they use water-saving processes or machinery in the factory? Do they have water-saving fixtures in their offices and headquarters? Do they use any water-saving systems like rainwater capture or gray water recycling? Do they have any special initiatives to protect waterways? Are they members of any water-related sustainability groups? And have they won any awards for water reduction? The waste management category asks, do they recycle farm wastes? Do they have initiatives or processes that help to minimize factory waste? What do they recycle in the factory? Do they have any initiatives to recover energy from waste? Are they members of any waste-related sustainability groups? And have they won any awards for waste prevention or reduction? The packaging category asks, have they made concerted efforts to reduce or minimize packaging? Have they worked to make packaging more recyclable? Do they use recycled content in particular types of packages? Do they use bio-based materials? Do they use reusable packaging either for primary or secondary packaging? Are they members of any packaging sustainability groups? Have they won any awards for packaging? And finally, the last category, community and philanthropy, asks, which charities do they support? What type of work do these charities do? How much do they give annually? Do they have an employee volunteerism program? How many hours per person do they donate annually? Have they developed any grants or scholarship programs? What type of work do these programs support? Do they have a policy to hire local, small, women, minority, or veteran-owned businesses? And finally, have they won any awards for community support? The following video will look at McDonald's, Stonyfield Organic, and Noose Foods, sustainable, organic, and responsible sourcing practices.
McDonald's raised its golden arches in Des Plaines, Illinois on April 15, 1955. First-day sales totaled $366.12, and its famous hamburgers sold for only 15 cents a patty. Today, McDonald's feeds over 25 million people in the U.S. daily. It's also a global brand with over 34,000 restaurants in 118 countries. Every day, customers eat up 9 million pounds of French fries, equal to the weight of 900 elephants. There are over 145 items on McDonald's menu, but it's really the big five that bring home the bacon. Big Macs, Quarter Pounders, McNuggets, fries, and Egg McMuffins account for 25% of total sales. More Americans visit McDonald's than any other chain of any kind, including Walmart, and it's got the grocery list to prove it. Let's start with the fixins. 43 million pounds of tomatoes, 102 million pounds of lettuce, and don't hold that cheese. McDonald's buys 231 million pounds of cheese a year, a yearly tally that adds up to $9 billion.
The indirect and direct impacts of things like climate change, water scarcity, or indeed the availability of food or oil are impacting the production and affordability of the food products in our system. What's unique about McDonald's is the long-term partnership that we have with our suppliers, which enables them to invest in the future. We know our biggest impacts, and indeed our biggest challenges, are in agriculture. We literally have hundreds of thousands of farmers supplying raw materials into McDonald's. So the challenge is to impact standards of sustainability and sustainability practices on their farms. And that's why we developed McDonald's Agricultural Assurance Program. That's been running for 10 years now. Some of the farmers with the best sustainability practices we're profiling in our Flagship Farms program and using them to influence others. Animal welfare is one of those areas that perhaps we've been working on for the longest.
We have a sustainable sourcing commitment which prioritises key raw materials that we want to address, such as soy, palm oil, wood fibre and beef. Out of all of our commodities globally, beef is our greatest environmental impact, so we've set up a global roundtable to address this issue. We're working along the whole length of our supply chain, not just in agriculture, but also in manufacturing and logistics. We ask our suppliers to complete an environmental scorecard that looks at energy, water, waste, and emissions to air, and ask suppliers to make improvements each year.
Back in 1983, co-founders Samuel Kamen and Gary Hirschberg were running a non-profit organic farming school on a small New Hampshire farm. They were on a mission to help family farms survive, keep food and food production healthy, and help protect the environment, but the school needed funding. So, they put the farm's 7 cows to work and all the helping hands they could wrangle and began selling really good yogurt made without the use of toxic, persistent pesticides or chemical fertilizers. Samuel and Gary did most of the work back then. They milked the cows, made the yogurt, and made sales calls and even deliveries. The yogurt was a hit, a big one, and Samuel and Gary realized that a successful organic company could make a bigger difference for family farms, people, and the planet than their school could. So they decided to run with yogurt. All of their products are organic. They make them without the use of toxic persistent pesticides, artificial hormones, antibiotics, or GMOs. The feed for their animals is tested for GMO contamination, so absolutely no GMOs are in their products at all. In 2008, they piloted their Greener Cow project, which reduced cow methane emissions by altering cows' diets. In 2012, they used biodiesel fuel in some of their trucks. In 2005, they installed New Hampshire's largest photovoltaic solar array on their Yogurt Works roof. In 2010, they introduced the first yogurt cup made from plants. And today, their new frozen yogurt pearls do not require any packaging. More than 50 years ago, in the Appalachian region of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia, a prominent group of neighboring independent fruit growers recognized the enormous potential at their fingertips. Given their shared commitment to raising quality fruit, they formed an alliance and began working together as a grower cooperative. In 1920, they soon became aware of 2 key weaknesses. First, they needed a reliable processor for their fruit, and second, they needed an effective leader. They addressed the first issue by purchasing apple processing plants and equipment. They satisfied the second need by recruiting Milton E. Noose, a pioneer in the fruit processing industry since the 1920s. He assumed active leadership of the cooperative, and on April 15, 1949, Noose Foods Inc. began operating officially. Today, Noose Foods is proud to say that they are one of the world's largest apple processors and are still growing through quality, their motto from the beginning. As a grower-owned cooperative, Noose Foods is an outstanding example of how the relationship between growers and processors can bear fruit. Today, Noose Foods has 6 processing plants in 2 states: the Ortona plant in Pennsylvania, the Paw Paw plant in Michigan, the Gardner's Pennsylvania plant, the Peach Glen, Pennsylvania corporate office, the Chambersburg, Pennsylvania plant, and lastly, the Biglerville, Pennsylvania plant. At their Peach Glen corporate offices and manufacturing plant, they have 14,000 solar panels covering 19 acres, which delivers 31% of the power used at the plant. Their Ortona manufacturing plant generates a significant amount of its own electricity with the help of a natural gas-fired jet turbine engine. And 5 of their production plants have modified their boilers to run on recycled motor oil. As of 2009, they have new clean fuel-burning fleet trucks that use a blend of soybean-based biodiesel fuel. Noose Foods only uses repairable apple bins. After the fall harvest comes in and the apples are processed, the bins are repaired and returned to the growers' orchards for the next year. They use 250,000 repairable wood apple bins and 32,000 repairable and recyclable plastic apple bins. In terms of water management, 160 million gallons of water a year is captured from their processing operations and irrigated onto grass fields where it re-enters the local watersheds. And finally, they distribute 6 million pounds of their apple pomace, the apple waste after production, to local farmers to be used as livestock feed. So why compare these farms and businesses? McDonald's represents one of the largest producers and distributors of food in the world. By looking at their various practices in both agriculture and other sourcing activities, we can see how big businesses handle the public and environmental pressures to be more sustainable and responsible. While they are obviously not perfect, they have taken significant strides in reacting to and preventing further damage from both their suppliers and their own activities. Stonyfield is a great representative of how an organic business can be successful on a larger scale. They have focused on really developing the northeastern region of the United States in terms of how to farm and ranch organic livestock. They have also been innovative in their practices, as we saw from their Greener Cow project and their packageless frozen yogurt pearls. Noose Foods represents a different type of farm and business, as it is a growers' cooperative. Although they are not organic, they practice an immense amount of sustainable agriculture and develop innovative ways to continue to reduce their impact on the environment. One of the bigger differences amongst these organizations is their size. Because McDonald's is a global food and beverage distributor, they have more responsibility and are more widely looked at by the public. Their size both helps and hinders them in achieving their sustainability efforts. They have large goals, but because they are such a big organization, it takes a lot more time to start implementing changes organization-wide. But their size is also a benefit, because they have the monetary capital to invest in new technology and efforts in order to be successful. They can also be a leader in the industry, as we see with the Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. Stonyfield Organic and Noose Foods are more similar in that they are both large but not at the same scale as McDonald's. This affords them less public scrutiny and they have less of an impact on the environment. However, that does not mean they should not continue with their sustainability efforts. Because these two companies focus on a particular category of products like dairy and apples, they can focus a lot more on bringing new practices into their fields. As a recommendation to these companies, I think it would be interesting and beneficial if they partner together with one another. McDonald's is the capital to help both Stonyfield Organic and Noose Foods expand their knowledge about their respective fields, and in turn, McDonald's would have suppliers that are already sustainable in their practices and are focusing on improving their practices even further. They could even teach McDonald's a few new things as well because of their smaller size and more focused fields. At the end of the day, the partnership would be beneficial on both sides.